I realized literally as COVID happened, I was on my deathbed from COVID. And I realized, oh my God, I have no legacy for my kids except struggle, except seeing me fail. For me, it looked like failure.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do something bigger and different to offer them something that they could look forward to. I wanted to be more like my mom and less like the failure I saw in myself. Reality is completely separate from what our hopes are or what our dreams are. And what really causes a person to self-analyze and to self-improve and to grow is by understanding that there is that bridge that can be connected between the two, and you just have to find your path through to the other side. And I think for me, it took me a long time to get to that point, a lot of self-discovery. And when you're a mother, it's really hard to do that. You know, your focus is entirely on these little babies, you know, that you have to care for, and also put food on the table and pay for things and pay for their life and pay for your life, because, you know, ultimately they're a reflection of you as well. So I think for me, I took a lot of detours to get to Atomic Mommy.
Hey, I just want to say thank you for being part of this community. It is you who listens, it is you who watches, it is you who likes and leaves comments. It is you who enables us to grow. We've grown this much thanks to you. And this is only the beginning. We have big plans to scale this podcast in terms of the guests that we're going to have, in terms of the audience that we're going to reach, and more importantly, the value that we're going to bring to you. So a big thank you from the New Jersey Business Podcast team. I appreciate you very much. And I just have one little favor to ask. If wherever you are listening or watching this podcast, please subscribe. Thanks again.
The New Jersey Business Podcast highlights and supports local business and business owners just like you. We interview New Jersey's finest people, learn business, and have way too much fun doing it. You'll get tons of value from local business people as they share about their journey and secrets to success. If you like what you hear, want to support us, and make sure you are getting more of the good stuff, subscribe, rate, and review this podcast today. You are listening to the New Jersey Business Podcast with your friend, host, all-around good guy, Paul Valverde. Now, on to the show.
What's shaking, New Jersey? Welcome to another episode of the New Jersey Business Podcast. Today, I have with me Kim Pangaro. She's the founder and CEO of Atomic Mommy. Kim, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Paul. I really appreciate being on your show.
Kim, so I was going through your Instagram and I was checking out the content that you put out. I think it's really cool. It's all towards parents. And I like our audience to learn more about what you do, the services you offer, and the information of value that you provide. But before we do that, Kim, I firmly believe that we are who we are because of the things that we've been through in life, our upbringing. That I believe that there are experiences that really shaped us into who we are as people today. And so I'm going to ask you to please take us back, way back to your childhood. What are those things that you feel shaped Kim Pangaro?
Oh, man, that's a really good question. So I used to love to read books when I was a little girl. I think I must have been maybe like 1 or 2 years old when I took a nice chunk out of the first book I ever read, or so how the story goes. And from there, I think I must have loved the taste or something. I don't know. But that's how I started my official love of books. And I spent my elementary years hiding in the library, looking for Shakespeare and reading, The Three Musketeers, which was my favorite book back in the day. And that definitely shaped who I was going to become. I love to learn. I love to share my knowledge. I am what you would call an eternal knowledge seeker. So that's definitely who I am today. I've always been that person.
I know you reside in New Jersey now. Are you originally from Jersey?
I am born and bred Jersey girl.
Whereabouts?
I live in Bergen County in Carlstadt. I've been here, 35 years.
Cool. I used to live in Bergen County, in Hackensack, right in the Hackensack-Maywood border, actually. I'm in Morris County now, but I do love Bergen County. You guys have several shopping centers nearby. You have the Garden State Plaza, Paramus Park Mall, Shopside Riverside, maybe a few more, Bergen Town Center or whatnot. Kim, thank you for sharing those things about your childhood. So you were a big reader, is that right?
Yes, I was. I'm still a very big reader.
Who would you say was perhaps one or two of the most influential figures of your childhood?
Wow. You mean, so it could be anybody?
It could be anybody. It could be someone very close to you, or it could be someone that you just read about.
Well, okay, so I'll give you two. So one close to me and one extremely influential growing up. So I'm sure you know who Steven Spielberg is. He is such a great storyteller, to the point where I love all of his movies. Some of the movies I didn't even know he directed or produced. I should have known, though, by the way he told the story. But he's like up there top. And then as far as personal goes, I would say my mother. She's been a huge person in my life who has always pushed me to be an independent woman, to be strong and to know what I want in life and to never fear going for what you want. And even herself, she's an immigrant from Cuba, came here when she was, I think, 12 or 13. And, you know, she taught me what it was to be really a force in your own life.
Yeah, you know, with Mother's Day right around the corner, I like that you brought up that your mom was an influential figure in your life. I think for most of us, our moms are such a huge part of our lives, of our childhood. What were some of the things that inspire you the most about your mom?
Oh gosh, she had a strong faith, and that's something to be impressed by, because nothing could shake that. Even today, nothing shakes that faith at all, which is really important. And the second thing I would say is that she never gave up on herself. She was a former stay-at-home mom, and she like took herself to work at a little I call it a tienda, like a little store, like a Krauser's or whatever. She worked that at night, and when my dad was home, and then she took herself to school for nursing school, and she became a nurse in her 40s. And then she moved to Florida and she bought a house, and she decided she wanted to be per diem so she could live her life how she wanted to live. So I think that she is so important in the strength that she shows me and how you can change even after people think you're over the hill.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I know when we're children and we look at our parents, we see things from our perspective. And then as we become adults and as we become parents, we begin to appreciate things that maybe we took for granted before. Do you experience that when you became a mom? Like felt perhaps a closer connection to your mother, or appreciated things that, I don't know, maybe you could give an example of something that really sticks out to you.
Oh my goodness, yes, I was a terrible teenager, so I definitely drove her insane. I was a rebel, I guess you could say. What I grew into after becoming a mother was appreciating her fierce love of her children and the protection she always gave us from the world, really. And I grew so much closer to her after becoming a mother, because I understood that feeling, that sensation of these are my responsibility, my children, to take care of and to make sure I give them a good, loving home, a strong figure to look up to. And she did that. And I really never appreciated that until I had my first daughter.
Yeah, I know. I think it's part of the cycle of life, right? Mm-hmm. But it does, I believe, as we become parents, bring us closer to our parents. But I'm so glad that you seem to have such a close relationship with your mom, and I think that's wonderful. That should strengthen you as a mother as well, right?
It does. It definitely does. I have someone that I can go to with any issues that I might have, parenting wise, even marital. And that's not to say that I don't have a great relationship with my father. I do, a very strong one. But I'm sure you know, I think you're Hispanic as well. Yes. So you know, growing up in a Hispanic family, there are roles, you know, traditional roles they hold on to. And so my mother took on the brunt of the loving and the disciplining, because she was the one home. And so I know that side more than my father's struggles, you know?
Yeah.
And so I honestly, I love parenting and motherhood, and because she was there so much.
So let's fast forward a little bit. In your childhood, you were passionate about reading. You still are passionate about reading. Some of the people that influenced you the most were a great storyteller and your mother for her love and care and her faith and her perseverance. You did share with us that you had a bit of a turbulent youth. And so what happens? Like, tell me about the time you become a mom. What happens first? I'm assuming you become a mom before Atomic Mom comes around.
Oh yeah, I became a mom very young. I got pregnant at 21. I still didn't finish college. My parents, being who they are, they sort of pushed me into getting married. And if you understand the culture, you understand why. And becoming a mom at such a young age, you miss out on a lot of stuff. You don't get to be that, sorority girl. You don't get to go out drinking with your friends. All your friends, they go out, they don't call you anymore. They don't text you anymore. And because you're so much younger than all the other moms, you don't know how to forge that bond between the other parent and yourself. And that was really hard as a young mother. And then my second daughter came very young as well. And then I got a divorce really young as well. So I went through a lot of things that most people don't go through until they're in their 30s and 40s. And now I have 4 daughters.
And you did go through many of these things by what age?
Let's see, 21 pregnant with my first, 23 pregnant with my second and married. And by the end of 24, I was divorced.
Yeah. So you gain a lot of life experience going through this these situations, and also I believe that there people have in mind what are the ideal conditions to be a parent, right? Like you reach certain age, you have certain financial stability, you have some education, you read all these books in preparation prior to you having your baby arrival. You have the room all decorated, the crib, and da. But oftentimes that's not reality, is it?
No, it's not. It more than not, reality is completely separate from what our hopes are or what our dreams are. And what really causes a person to self-analyze and to self-improve and to grow is by understanding that there is that bridge that can be connected between the two, and you just have to find your path through to the other side. And I think for me, it took me a long time to get to that point, a lot of self-discovery. And when you're a mother, it's really hard to do that. Your focus is entirely on these little babies, that you have to care for, and also put food on the table and pay for things and pay for their life and pay for your life. Because, ultimately they're a reflection of you as well. So I think for me, I took a lot of detours to get to Atomic Mommy. And so, I was poor, I was divorced, I was bankrupt, I was poor again, a single mom for a long time. I was in the dating field just as Tinder and all the swiping happened. And then I got married again, and I had another 2 children, and I was still fumbling, trying to find my way. I did real estate for a decade because that was the only job I could get that would allow me to be a mom full time and still earn an income. And so I realized, literally, as COVID happened, I was on my deathbed from COVID, and I realized, oh my God, I have no legacy for my kids except struggle, except seeing me fail. For me, it looked like failure.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do something bigger and different to offer them something that they could look forward to. I wanted to be more like my mom and less like the failure I saw in myself.
It is, I like us to kind of ponder on this a little bit, because you've shared a lot of things of value. And there may be someone who's listening, who very well likely be a mom, even a dad, who is feeling like that right now, who is feeling like they're failing at life. Mm-hmm. Who is feeling like they can't get one win, who's feeling like their life sucks, who's feeling like their kids have nothing to look up to when it comes to them. What will you say to that person?
I would say do not give up at all. Just keep pushing yourself forward. There is definitely light at the end of the tunnel, even if you can't see it. Sometimes we get so focused on the problems, the struggle, the fear, and the failure that we never see who we can become or who we might be in the future if we just give ourselves some forgiveness. And I think for myself, it took a long time to forgive all of my mistakes, everything that I didn't get to finish, to accept that what once was is no longer, and now I need to find a new dream. And so for all the people out there, moms, dads, whoever, anyone really, is that life can suck, and life often does suck, but there is so much positive and good that we can find, that we have in ourselves, that we have to sort of declutter and pull away to be able to find that. And so that's really the message I would share.
I think that's a beautiful message, Kim.
Thank you.
Most of our audience are business owners. A great percentage, about 75%, are first-time business owners, entrepreneurs, people who are starting out. And one of the things they struggle the most is that having balance in life. It's quite challenging because some of them will have a background of having a fixed schedule for their job, and now suddenly they don't. Yeah. And what they end up realizing is, as opposed to working less, they actually end up working more, and that their mind doesn't seem to want to stop, and so they're spending time with their special someone, and a good idea pops into their head. They are perhaps doing something of leisure, going to a family barbecue, and suddenly that's like the one thing they always want to talk about: what they're doing, their projects, their dreams, and they begin to feel that what at the beginning seemed to be beautiful, very tender passion, now is like this black hole that seems to be sucking in the rest of their lives. And I'm sure that as an entrepreneur, you can identify with that. What will you say to that person who feels like that their business now is taking over their life and they are unable to find that balance?
Well, I personally resonate with all of that you just said. I did go through that same thing. I would say two things. So, A, you need a routine. You definitely need a routine, but you have to stick to that routine. You can't just walk away from the routine because something comes up. And that goes for parents who even might have kids who maybe, they get called home because they're sick, I think routine is really important. And, showing your family members and your children, this is what I do, and I need to do this to get this done. And then sticking with that. And then the second thing I would say is to really leave room for yourself to spend alone time so that you can gather your thoughts, gather your goals, your mission, your values, and see if maybe you're on them. What didn't you achieve? What's the plan to get there? If we are cluttering ourselves all the time with all the different events we have to go to, whether it's family or it's the kids or something, we're always going to be working because we're never really going to have time to focus on our business. And so for me personally, in the beginning, it was really hard to establish boundaries and establish a routine with family members, with my kids, even with, extended relatives. No one really understood what I was doing. It was sort of like, oh, it's just a thing she's into, well, it's fine.
What going through.
Get over it. Go back to real estate, right? And no one really understood until I continuously always set the tone for me as the boss and for me as my business. And I needed everyone to be on the same page. And so I had to have these conversations with these people to make sure they understood. And that includes even my 5-year-old. She was 4 at the time, the little one. And I said, I explained, when mommy has to work, you got to, let mommy work, and we'll do it for an hour, and then we'll have playtime. And so whatever phase of the business you are as an entrepreneur, whether you're a parent or not, and if you're working from home, that's like the hardest thing in the world to do, is to work from home. But definitely have a routine. Give yourself some free time away from everyone to focus on the business, but also focus on yourself. because you are the business owner. And if you're burnt out from working 14 hours a day, your business is not going to flourish. So you need that break. You need that time. And then also forgive yourself, because you are going to mess up. And that's what entrepreneurship is you mess up a lot more often than you get it right. You mess up. And then you start realizing what works and what doesn't work. And you build this business plan to help you move through the different phases of success. And success includes failure, just so everybody knows that.
You've spoken true words. One of the biggest breakthroughs for me was to begin to just practice self-compassion. To just having compassion. Like if someone on my team messed up, I never came down hard. Like I was never hard on them. I would understand. We'll keep going. It's fine. We'll figure it out. But when it was me that messed up, or when I felt that I was coming up short, or whatever it may be, I was too hard on myself. And that really drained my energy. So forgiving yourself, practicing self-compassion is definitely important in life, in our journey in life, but as entrepreneurs especially, because you are prone to take higher risks, and oftentimes they can end up in failures in terms of not meeting the goals that you desire. But then at the same time, you walk away with more experience. And, the saying goes, when experience meets money, money walks away with experience, but experience walks away with all the money. And in business, experience is extremely important. And you can only gain experience by trying things. And when you try things, you will fail at a good percentage of those things, but that's okay as long as you're consistent and continue to try to improve and kind of reinforce the things that are succeeding. Kim, so you've so now you have 4 kids, and you are a realtor for 10 years, right?
Yep.
Now, the advantage of you being a real estate agent for 10 years is that you're already accustomed to managing your own time, and you probably know a lot of people. And I find it interesting, but people who get to interact with more people also get to receive more information.
Yes.
So someone who you mentioned works from home, doesn't have much of a social life, doesn't interact much with, or has a very small group of friends, their worldview is very limited, versus someone who has the opportunity to just interact with different people day in, day out, different cultures, different backgrounds, different life stories, different professions, etc. So you, and from my perspective, you had those good things going for you. In addition to that, realtors are trained in communication. And so I think that's pretty cool. And so at what point how did Atomic Mommy start? Did it start like a hobby and turn into a business, or was it a business from day one? What was that like?
I was ending my real estate career because COVID happened. So at the time, I'm sure you remember, there was a huge shutdown in New Jersey, and we couldn't go to open houses. We couldn't do certain things. We couldn't show houses in person. And I lost that big income that I had. Huge. It was a very large income. Real estate, I'm sure you know, was a great business. Yeah. So when that happened, I was like, oh, what am I going to do next? I don't know what I'm going to do next. And then I got sick. I got sick with coronavirus really bad. At the time that they didn't know what was happening, and they only would tell you, oh yeah, you definitely have it, but they had no tests, and you only went to China, and then you got diagnosed. It was an odd time for me, but severe asthma. And so that affected me very much so. And so I went from having corona to having viral pneumonia. It took me 9 months to get cleared, and I still ended up with my left lung not working too great. But during that whole period of time, I kept thinking about what is my life? What did I do with it? I have nothing to show for it. Yeah, I have 4 kids. That's great and all, but as a person, as an individual, separate from my family, from my children. What are my accomplishments? I gave up on college. I went to real estate and I want to walk away from that. I never got to write the way I wanted to write. And so it started with that. I wanted to become a writer. I wanted to write. And when I started writing, I started sending out my pitches, my query letters, I guess you could call them. Yeah. They did not do good. They were all bad. I got rejection after rejection after rejection. And if you're a writer, you're supposed to be okay with rejection. Now, I'm okay with getting told no all day long in real estate. No, I don't want to buy a house. No, I don't want to sell it. That's fine. But when someone tells you that your writing is not good, it's a very
personal thing. Yeah.
Personal. It stings, And I was like, well, you know what? I'll try self-publishing. Why not? I'll do that. And it started like that. And then one of the last rejection letters I got, it was from a literary agent who didn't have to tell me anything other than, no, we don't want to publish your book. But they gave me a piece of information. They said, you don't have a social following. I was like, well, I have Facebook. Doesn't that count? All my close personal friends, right? And the truth is that it didn't count. You needed to have a real social media following. And so I set out to do two things. A, I was going to get my name out there. Mm-hmm. And B, I was going to try self-publishing. And so I did. My very first book, I self-published. And I created a mommy blog. It started as a blog. And that's how it started. Really, legitimately, that's how it started. And the only person that really supported me on this new venture was my husband. And I just started typing away. And then I started realizing, what do I really want? This could be a business. And I saw the opportunity there. And I started searching online for other parenting websites. And I saw two things. Number one, either they were hyper local, like, Jersey City or something in Manhattan, the 5 boroughs, or they were regional. And the other thing was that they were very focused on specific target audiences. So babies or motherhood or fatherhood, but never together. I never found them together. And so I saw an opportunity to create a brand, a community. And I wanted it to be global. I wanted to introduce voices from around the world who were parents, who could provide tips on things that we normally don't get to see here in America and vice versa. Mm-hmm. And so I decided to create a parenting platform and community to empower parents everywhere. And it didn't matter whether you were, a transgender couple who had children. It didn't matter if you were a mom and dad in Japan. It didn't matter. I just wanted to bring those voices to the table and showcase all of those things. And that's how it started. And from there, there's been a lot of failures and a lot of successes.
So you start. Based on the feedback from this editor or editorial, you start trying to create a social following, and this begins in the form of a blog. And then what platforms are you currently on, and how can people find you?
So I am on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok as Atomic _mommy. And then I'm on Facebook, of course. But really my biggest following, I would say, is on Instagram. And that's because I interact with a lot of different parents. So I make a point to always talk to these parents, and, I share their stuff, they share mine. And it's sort of like a give and take relationship. Yeah. But that's my most success on social media.
So they can find you in Twitter, they can find you in TikTok, they can find you in Instagram. The great majority of your community is in Instagram. Mm-hmm. And your handle is Atomic _mommy.
Yes.
Wonderful. And we're going to put all this information in the description of the show. But I still want you to kind of communicate to the audience. I know you have a website as well. What can people find in your website when they go there?
So my website is atomicmommy.net. Mm-hmm. And it's a lifestyle parenting brand. It's a community. It's a platform. And what they can find there is just information about any style, any phase of parenting that you're on. Whether that's, you just got pregnant, or you're having fertility issues, or if your kids are all in school and you want to get fit again, fatherhood even on there, if you're a single dad or a single mom. There's so many different facets of being a parent. So I made sure to incorporate that into the site so that this way you could be on one site. And if you want to search up a recipe to make, cookies, at the same time you want to look up, how do I get my kid to listen to me? You're able to do that on one site without having to visit 10 different sites.
And now these are in the form of blogs, right?
They're all articles. And so written by some of the editors I have on the team. Some are written by featured authors from around the world. I have some experts who have written for the site as well. So it's a whole community that brings content to the site.
And so they can find all these blogs and all this information, and there's a wide range of information that would be interesting to parents, mothers, fathers, even whether they're single, they're not, whether they're expecting, currently pregnant, whether their kids are growing up, etc. What kind of content do you put out on your social media?
So on my social media, I have a variety of content. So sometimes it's reels, and it's me either being funny, or it's me and my husband being, funny. Sometimes it's how-tos or tips for those reels. And then there's also static posts. So sometimes there'll be memes because, parenting is often a meme, I should say. And then other times they're carousels and they're info guides of like things that parents should know or understand. Like one of the most recent reels I did was about the 10 products in your bathroom that are toxic for your body and that could be disrupting your children's hormones. So that's something I recently did. And a lot of people don't even realize that that's in the bathroom, like deodorant or body wash or shampoo and conditioner. So I would say my content is geared towards family life and really helping parents on their journey.
Kim, you mentioned a little bit ago that when your first book was published, do you have more of one book that is published?
Let's see. I have my book. You want me to show you my book? I'll show it.
Yeah, sure.
So it's actually a really cute book. It's called When You're Strange. And it's truly about children empowering who they are, their silliness, their quirkiness, the differences of who they are as an individual, right? It's really cute. It's funny. I have 13 positive reviews on Amazon. I'm really proud of that. It was my first book. So, I did that. I do have a lot of other books that are in the works. And when I say a lot, a writer always has something in the works, and usually a lot of some things. So I'm currently working on a book about being a mompreneur, like a mom and entrepreneur, and helping women understand as mothers, like that failure is part of the package, and not to really believe all the hype on Instagram sometimes because it can be confusing. And then I have another one I'm working on that's a fiction novel, and it's about a stay-at-home mom who is a sort of like a little secret murderer. I guess that's the best way to convey that. So, yeah.
And it's not a biography. It's a
no, definitely not. But yeah, I do. I have. I even have one about being, growing up in my town and being one of the only Hispanic women in this town growing up. So that one's actually almost finished and is about to be sent out for query. Cool. So it has not been an easy ride, because when you get rejected in the beginning, it sort of like stunts your growth a little bit. And then you have to like sort of jump through the mountain and take the path to get there. So I finally feel so confident in what I'm doing and who I am. And I actually have a social media following now. So I'm getting these projects finished up to send out. It's kind of good.
It's interesting. You mentioned rejection, and in business, that's inevitable. And it's quite difficult. For some people, it's extremely difficult to just encounter rejection. And I would imagine that in real estate, it wasn't such an issue. But when it comes to your writing, because it is your creation, it is what you're putting together, it hurts. It hurts a little bit more. And something that people practice in sales oftentimes is, you just got to figure out how many no's it takes to get a yes. So if you can identify that for every 10 no's you get a yes, you don't get so fixated in the like, crap, I got another no. It's like, okay, yeah, I got another one. I just got to get 10 before I get that yes. And the ratio may vary, depending on what you're selling in the industry. It may be that to pitch a book, it could be a ratio of 100 to 1. Who knows? But as opposed to thinking like crap, another rejection, just that mindset switch of, okay, one step closer to that yes. Okay, one step closer to that yes. Okay, let's get this no out of the way. The yes is coming. Really does change the way you feel, because it's really, when it comes down to it, it's a mindset thing. So okay, so I'm gonna ask you a question a little bit off topic, but it's still related. Okay. So you're a mom, you're an entrepreneur, you're married, and you have this project, this thing that you're working on. You did mention that your husband is supportive, right? Yeah. But he's very supportive, but he's not all in 100% with you. He just plays a supportive role, and you take the lead. Like, this is your thing. Am I right?
Yeah. So so in the beginning, when I first started the business, and I told him, I wanted to leave real estate, obviously he was concerned about the income loss. And, all of us were always like, don't worry about it. We got it, but the truth is that he didn't hesitate. He was very supportive in that aspect. And then after that, it was just on me to build something. He sort of lets me be who I am, who I want to be, without any restrictions. There's no box or prison cell, I guess you could say, that he puts me in. And so I think that's extremely important as an entrepreneur. So if you are, whether you're with somebody as a married, or you're with somebody in a relationship, or even a best friend, right? Like, you need to have support in your life, so that when you do fumble, when you do fail, you can go to them and say, listen, I have this issue. I don't know why it's not working. I can't get my head around it, right? Can I lay it out on the table for you? Maybe you can see something that I don't. So for the bulk of my company, I would say it's pretty much all me all the time. But if I didn't have that support system, I don't think that I would be able to wrap my head around some of the things that come my way. So I think it's really important for all entrepreneurs to have a friend, a best friend, an aunt, an uncle, whoever it is. In my case, it's my husband, who can sit there and say to me, you know what, I see you're struggling, why don't you take a break? And sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need somebody who's going to say to you, oh, hey, let's go get coffee. I know that this goes back to what you were saying earlier about, working all the time in your social life. In the first year, I was maybe working like 16, 17 hours a day, barely sleeping. That first year was really hard. And I felt personally that I needed to build this thing from the ground up, and it had to be me. It had to be all me. And I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurs sort of fumble, where everything is on them all the time. They don't know how to seek help. They don't know who to go to. They don't know what to do. And so I went to my husband, but he's a law enforcement officer, so he didn't really know what advice to give me, but he did support in the sense like, listen, whatever you need to get done, we'll figure it out. I reached out to some people in my real estate network, but they're all real estate, so they had no idea about publishing. Then I reached out to some of my other friends who own businesses as well. And it was the same thing. So I was very much alone in that aspect. So for what you're saying, yes, it's pretty much all me, but I pull from my friends, their motivation, their inspiration to really help me sort of like, okay, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to go get coffee. I'm going to go for a hike. I'm going to read a book, even though sometimes I don't even get the time anymore to really read as much as I would love to. There's been times where I'm hiking for like an hour and a half just to get my mind to focus, to focus on what I want to do next. And I would say that self-motivation is huge, but persistence is key. You're not going to be motivated every day. You're going to have to be persistent in motivating yourself, persistent in getting the work done, persistent in making sure you understand, okay, if I don't get it done today, there's always tomorrow. And so there's a whole group, it's a collective group of understanding those thought processes in your head and understanding who you are as a person and how you function.
Yes. The reason I ask you is because I've talked to I talked to business owners who have a partnership, right? Mm-hmm. Like husband and wife or whatnot, that they're together in the business. But I also talk to many who only one of them is in the business and the other has a regular job, or professional, whatever it may be. And oftentimes I've noticed how that actually has been an area of friction in their marriage. Like, for example, from the one that is not in the business, it's like, all he wants to talk about is his business. All she wants to do is things related to her business. Like, we can't even do this without her bringing it up, or da 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 da. And from the other one, it's like, he or she doesn't, from the business owner or the entrepreneur, is like talking about their partners, like, is my husband or wife does not value all the work I put into this, does not understand how important this is to me. For example, they'll say things like sometimes I can't tell him or her some of the things because I know she's gonna, or he is gonna oppose. Like, they're gonna reject my idea. They're gonna say, no, don't do it. Don't spend money on that. Don't da 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 da. Right. So I find that, because what I've noticed is that there seems to be a need for some sort of guidance in terms of relationship, but particularly relationship in that situation where only one of them is the entrepreneur. Like, oftentimes people who work a 9 to 5 or work a specific shift, when they come home, you ask them, how was your day? Same old, it will be the answer. But the entrepreneur, the business owner, is like, oh, how was your day? Oh, and they can't stop. They tell you everything that happened and what went right, what went wrong, what's your new dream, what's your new plan, etc. And so I was curious to know, and I'm happy to hear that you are with a person who's very supportive and who, you said, gives you freedom, does not put you in a box, does not imposes limitations on you, but lets you be you and allows you to flourish. I think you're blessed to be in that type of relationship and that type of partnership. And I don't know if you have perhaps a word of advice for someone who may find themselves in that situation in which they are the business owner, they are the entrepreneur, and their significant other is not.
I understand. I've had relationships previously that were not supportive at all. So I understand that difficulty, that struggle. I'll say this to the entrepreneurs. There's a couple of sides to that. So I would say the first thing is to be understanding of your partner, your significant other. They don't understand because they're not going through it, because they're not in the details. They don't know, and they technically can't be if they're working full time and they're doing other things in their lives. So I think as entrepreneurs, we tend to be so gung-ho about our lives and what we're doing, and that's great. That's fantastic for you, the individual. But at the same time, your partner has dreams of their own, has struggles of their own, has issues, or maybe they want to talk about something. So I think we have to sort of, I don't want to say limit ourselves, because that's not really the right phrase. What I would say is set aside time to make the day about the other partner so that they know you care. A lot of times as entrepreneurs, we're so excited about what we're doing. Every day is different for an entrepreneur. Every day we're doing something new. Something doesn't work. We're trying to solve the next problem. Now something does work, and all of a sudden it's success, right? And we're, again, excited all over again. But every day is new. And I'm sure you as an entrepreneur yourself, you understand that. But people who work 9 to 5 jobs, who are stay-at-home parents that don't participate in the entrepreneur world, that have totally different careers than what your career is, they're never really going to understand where you're coming from. But if we set aside time for that person, for them to feel like they're the most important person in the room, they'll be more on your side, more likely to be on your side, to be there when you need them and to be supportive. I make a point. Now, when my husband gets home from he works 12-hour days. So when he gets home from work, I make a point to talk about his job and what he's doing and what he needs and, what can I do to help him, And I do the same thing with my kids, because they're the ones who often feel that brunt of the entrepreneur being all in the world, right? But at the same time, I'm very communication oriented. Obviously, you can tell that by now. So I communicate what I need from my partner. So I make sure I say, look, today was a really rough day. I would love to definitely give you time, but I need some downtime for me. Whatever that might look like to the individual, I definitely make sure I say it. And I think entrepreneurs tend to feel guilty. That's a key word, guilty, because we're doing our own thing and we're in our own world and we're having a great time. We're networking, we're everything. And we tend to feel guilty to convey our successes because we don't want to upset that partner. But I think there's a way to communicate and say, okay, I had a great day, I had a bad day, but make it so that we talk about that person first, our partner first, so they feel special. Because at the end of the day, all a person wants, all your partner wants is to feel as important to you as your business is to you. And so I think that's why my relationship with my husband works so well. We both make a point to do that for each other.
God bless you both. Thank you very much for sharing that word of advice. I'm sure that a lot of people will benefit from it. It's good advice. It is something. It's a struggle that is real. That is I often see. But I think you gave some good tips in terms of how to make that better. Kim, we're coming to a close of our time together. I wanna remind the audience, your Twitter, TikTok, Instagram handle is atomic_mommy, and your website is atomicmommy.net.
Yes.
That's where they can find you. That's where they can communicate, interact with you, and get content of value wherever they are in their parenting journey. Is there anything you'd like to add to close our time together?
I would just like to add that first, thank you so much for having me. It has been an opportunity that I am so grateful for. So thank you for that. And I think to all the entrepreneurs, I would like to say, don't give up and push yourself. Even when you think you're down and out, just keep going because you're in the right direction, especially if you love what you're doing. So I think that's really my closing message.
There you have it, guys. We had Kim Pangaro with us today from Atomic Mommy. Kim, thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul, so much.
Thanks for tuning in to today's show. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show, go to NewJerseyBusinessPodcast.com. That's NewJerseyBusinessPodcast.com. We can't wait to hear from you and your business. You can also visit our website to learn about sponsorship opportunities and how to qualify for a complimentary gift. Thanks again for listening to the New Jersey Business Podcast.